Hi, I'm Dr. Kimber, and it's Wellness Wednesday. Today, we're going to talk about a topic that 40 million Americans suffer from, and probably even more than that. That's just documented. We're going to talk about anxiety. Maybe you struggle with that yourself. Maybe you have a loved one, and likely you do, that struggles with anxiety. So, is it all in our head, or is there other reasons that cause that anxiety that you might be dealing with? So we're going to dive into that a little bit more today. I love these times on Wednesday. I love to be able to come together in this community. I am here for you. I am here to answer those questions that you might have that you have nowhere else to ask. I love our time together, and I love to find out where you're from. So let me know in the comments where you're listening from. And if you have any questions, be sure to put those in the comments too, and we'll get to those as well. I'll do my best answering those for you as well, so that you can feel like you have knowledge to tackle that next burning question. All right, so let's talk about anxiety. Like I mentioned, anxiety affects 40 million people. Now, again, that is documented. That is not those that could be family members that just literally are like, oh, I'm struggling so much with anxiety, but never go to the doctor to actually have it looked at, treated, discussed, documented, whatever else. So 40 million American adults. It is definitely the most commonly diagnosed behavioral health condition out there. And what is going on? We see it's actually on a rise. We've seen that since 2020, that anxiety is on a rise, and not only amongst adults, but amongst young people, high school students, college students, and even younger. So what is going on? The general anxiety disorder, also known as GAD, manifests itself as excessive worry about your health, about family, about money, about work. Work can also be school or academics or sports. So just an inability to shut it off, just this excessive worry all the time. Some of the symptoms that might go along with anxiety are things like chronic nervousness or just angry or agitation, just don't have a lot of patience or a lot of bandwidth to tolerate mistakes or other people. A restless mind, just cannot shut the mind off. That's just constantly restless. Muscle tension, racing heart, just kind of find that you just can't hardly breathe. You have this heart just kind of that's beating out of your chest. Your breathing can get very shallow. You can have a lot of sleep disturbances. So those are some real common ones when anxiety is a factor, as some of the common symptoms that we deal with. And yes, you can go get a medication. And I applaud my friends that are medical doctors out there that are giving medications. They're helping people to cope with what's going on. The problem is that when we get a medication, we are simply dealing with the symptomology. We are not dealing with the issue. And there could be some common root cause issues that are going on in the body that the body is trying to tell us, trying to express itself. And this is one of the ways that it's chosen to do. And so what happens when we get a medication just so that we can feel better, we are not addressing the root cause. And today I'm going to dive into just 3 potential root causes that can be happening when you struggle with anxiety. All right, so let's take a look at that. The first one, mold exposure. There is a black mold species that produces a neurotoxic mycotoxin. So what does that mean? Well, the mycotoxin is the byproduct. It's kind of like the byproduct, or a byproduct can be like a fragrance can have scent and give off scent, and you can smell that scent. So a byproduct of mold is mycotoxin. So it's something that the mold is giving off. And that can very much cause a very neurotoxic or very damaging condition to the brain, particularly the brain's gray and white matter. All right. It basically impacts the frontal cortex of the brain. And that's like the decision making, the thinking, the frontal cortex of the brain, and therefore also it can interrupt the dopamine function in the brain. Now, dopamine is kind of our excitatory hormone, and so it gives off, it's the thing that gives you somewhat of a high when you are a list maker and you check off your list, or when you go skydiving or whatnot. Okay, so but it can impact that. And so what happens then is that then leads to these psychological disorders and can cause the anxiety to creep in to your body. All right, and so there are studies out there. Brown University did a study stating that 40% higher depression risk in people living in moldy households, 40% higher. Okay, so that was a Brown's University study done, and that's a lot. That means only 60% of people were not affected neurologically or with anxiety by the mold. So 40% of people. Some of the symptoms that we deal with when it comes to mold toxicity expressing itself in anxiety, things like, or neurologically, I should say, things like brain fog. I already said anxiety, memory issues, depression is another one. I know anxiety and depression tend to go together. They are two separate things, kind of like peanut butter and jelly, but oftentimes they go together. Headaches are very common in people who suffer with mold toxicity neurologically. Migraines, they can manifest a lot into migraines. So if you're one that just gets these chronic migraines, potentially could be that you're being exposed to mold. I don't want to dismiss that also can be a hormonal issue as well. But it's something we have to kind of think about with mold toxicity. Cognitive difficulties. So you just cannot get a word out straight. You can't think straight. You have a hard time retaining information. That is particularly thinking about with children. If you have a child in your household who is struggling to learn, struggling to memorize, struggling with attention span, that can be linked to a moldy environment, right? It all affects the brain neurologically and that frontal cortex. Sleep disturbances are another one. If you just have a terrible time sleeping, just the body just will not relax, racing mind at night, anxious thoughts, can't sleep, that is another correlation to a moldy environment that you're potentially living in, and that mold is colonizing in your body, particularly in your brain. All right, so let's pause a minute. Hello, Ellie. It's great to have you here. You're watching from Iowa. It's fun to have you be a part of this pretty much weekly. So thanks for joining. All right, so that's just one root cause that we think about when it comes to anxiety. So as a naturopathic doctor, one of the things that I will think about when somebody comes to me and says, I'm struggling with anxiety, is I'm right away thinking, okay, what is your environment like? And so we explore if potentially your anxiety could be rooted in a moldy environment that you're living in, or mold toxicity, mycotoxin toxicity within the body. So I'm constantly looking deeper because yes, of course, I want you to feel better. And if that medication is making you feel better, fantastic. However, the body is not healed. So we will have other issues that creep in if we do not resolve the root of what's going on and causing that anxiety. All right, second root cause is, you guessed it, because you hear me talk about it a lot, parasitic infections. All right, so let's talk about that. Parasites release a neurotoxin like ammonia that actually can cross the blood-brain barrier. And so what happens then is that GABA is depleted, and that leads to the racing thoughts, to the anxious mind, the anxiety behavior, the neurological difficulty. So that is oftentimes what happens. It comes from the parasites releasing that neurotoxin. All right, those little buggers, we got to get them out. Every single day, I am working with patients who are either just beginning their first time ever parasite cleanse, they're doing a repeat cleanse, because they are a factor, and we always have to stay on top of them because they are so easily, they think they're easily invited into our bodies. So if you've not done a parasite cleanse, then you want to do that. You either want to dive in to the 4-month cleanse that I will link and you can check out, or you want to do a full moon 7-day cleanse. Now, our next full moon is coming up on February 12th. So we're going to start getting ready. We'll link it today to do that cleanse. It will actually start on the 9th because we start 3 days beforehand and we go 3 days after. All right, so maybe it's time for you to do a cleanse. Probably is if you've not done one. The parasites, let's go back to parasites and what they do to the body and what causes that anxiety. So in the gut, which is oftentimes where those parasites live, they become disruptors in the microbiome, in the balance of the community of biome in the gut. And when that happens, then the gut-brain axis is communication gets interrupted, and therefore we have a tendency then to move that into anxiety. All right, so when that gut-brain connection is not communicating well, then, and that happens when you have a parasitic infection, then that can manifest itself in you as anxiety. All right. It also impacts our hormones. And again, I don't want to totally land on hormones right this minute, but parasites absolutely affect the hormones. Hormones are made in, the ovaries and the adrenals and in the tissues. And when those get disrupted, we have issues. Parasites create this chronic infection that causes the body to be in this high state alert of stress, chronic stress. Your blood sugar rises, your digestion slows down, your heart rate slows down, your body kind of goes into a fight or flight state. So some key indicators, if maybe your anxiety is connected to parasites, are things like teeth grinding. Do you grind your teeth at night? Do you, or someone do your children grind their teeth at night? Because you don't think you might not have parasites, your kids could. They're around a ton of kids all throughout the day, and they aren't as vigilant about their washing of their hands and whatnot as maybe you are or should be. All right, so sleep issues are another big indicator, and particularly night terrors. Those are awful. As a child, a very young child, I struggled with night terrors unbelievably. And I still remember to this day the things that I would see in the night, and like that, I mean, that horrendous, frightened, fearful feeling, not even being able to speak because of those night terrors. So I probably had parasites. I know I sure did. In my health journey, it was a major issue. I probably had them already as a kid. especially considering my own personal health issue and the incredible battle I fought with parasites and continue to fight to this day, even though I feel fantastic. I got to be vigilant about that. Other issues, digestive problems. If you're one that has GERD or heartburn or just bloating or constipation or diarrhea, and keep an eye on it. If it tends to uptick over the full moon, you likely have parasites. So your issues, your anxiety issues could be rooted to parasites. Look at the way the rest of your body is talking to you. And if you don't know, then ask me. I'll put a link in there. You can set up a discovery call and we can talk about it and get you on to feeling better. You might feel better because you're on medication. Maybe you don't feel better because you're not on any medication. But the bottom line is let's get you really feeling better, not Medicaid dependent, okay? Not dependent on medicine. Dark circles under your eyes. Now, parents, look at your kids. Do they have dark circles under their eyes? It's a really good indicator that they have parasites. Don't be biased. Look at them. Take off the rose-colored glasses and really look at your children and assess if they have those dark circles, because that's going to affect them in school as well. Just how they can sit, how they can pay attention, how they can learn. So really look at your children. Now look at yourself. Do you have dark circles under your eyes? Are you trying to put concealer on them? Are you always scanning the internet for the next concealer or the next under eye cream that can resolve the dark circles? Well, I'm going to tell you right now, it has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do internally, and you likely have parasites. All right. Skin issues. I have a lot of patients I work with that have a lot of skin issues. Eczema, psoriasis, rashes, itchy skin. Those are really common key indicators as well of parasites. So if you fit any of this, let's have a conversation, or just do one of the cleanses. Either do the full 4-month cleanse that's literally going to cover the parasites, the mold, the heavy metals, the viruses, absolutely everything that can be bogging down your health. It's the most comprehensive detox out there that you can do for yourself. And you can do it on your own. You don't need me for that. But if you have some pretty serious, significant health issues, you might need me. So then let's set up a discovery call and let's talk about that. All right. There is one other that I'm going to talk about today. There are other root causes, but another really super common one. So these are the top 3 common root to anxiety that I see in many and most, I'm not going to say all, but most of my patients that come to me with anxiety. And that is hormonal imbalances. All right, so I'm not just talking to women here. I also am talking to you men out there. But hormones are the chemical messengers that affect your mood and your mental health. So if you have an imbalance with your hormones, you could potentially it can be connected there to the anxiety that you're experiencing. All right. So I'm not just talking about estrogen and progesterone, testosterone, but I'm also talking about cortisol and DHEA and pregnenolone and those types of hormones as well. When we get out of balance hormonally, those chemical messengers, they have a very difficult time connecting. Now, the other thing that can trigger hormonal imbalances is toxicity. Yes, I just mentioned parasites. Yes, we just talked about mold, but it's all the other endocrine disrupting toxicities out there. And you might be thinking, well, what is that? Well, a really quick clue is if you're still drinking the majority of your water out of plastic bottles, stop that, because you're probably you've got a lot of bisphenol or BPA in your body that is an endocrine disruptor that's mucking up the estrogen receptors so that you cannot have your estrogen connect to the receptor and have the chemical message given off properly. So a really easy stop that. Just start with getting all the plastics out of your life, in your kitchen, where you drink, all of that, what you store your food in, all of that. But you might be thinking to yourself, well, what else is there? And I'm going to tell you, there is a list this long. It's huge. And so the best thing to do, and I'll link this too, is to take the environmental toxins course that I wrote. I wrote that specifically for you to learn where these toxins are coming into your body, how they're getting into your home. We're going to look at the water, the air, the foods, the personal care products, and all the different things. And I'm not only going to just like create an awareness there, but I'm going to give you some very simple measures that you can take, substitutions that you can make, all of that, so that everyone can really make an impact on the toxicity coming into your body, because that is a big hormonal disruptor as well. And it can be affecting you. It can be the very cause of your anxiety. Now, it is true that women are much more likely to experience hormone-related anxiety than men. But hear what I said, much more likely, not that men can't at all. So that's important to hear. But women, that is something we need to look at, and depending upon how old you are, what your lifestyle is, and that is all things we figure out. Is it mold? Is it parasites? Is it hormones? I know it can sound overwhelming to you, but that's my job. That's what I figure out. And so set that discovery call and we can talk about it for you. Now, some common signs in women, which are a little different than men, are things like focus and memory issues, your mood swings. I don't know if anybody ever told you this, but PMS is it's not normal. It's common, but it's not normal. So if you struggle with PMS and you're constantly telling the people around you, it's PMS, that's why I'm so crabby, or whatnot, I'm telling you right now, you have some hormonal imbalances and you need to reach out, because it's not normal and you don't need to be that way. You don't need to be making excuses for your mood, because it can be resolved. Another thing that hormonal imbalances can cause, are very common in women, are weight changes, bloating. So if that's happening to you and you're like, where's this coming from? Reach out, because that's probably connected to your hormones there. And then, of course, sleep. Sleep is a big thing. If your body restores, replenishes, rebuilds all through the night, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. And if you're missing any of that sleep time period in there, good deep sleep, you are not healthy. And you got to get on top of that. Now, men, let's talk about you a second, because hormonal imbalances are just as likely for you. So what are some common things we see with men? Well, declining well-being. If you just don't feel as good as you used to feel, maybe motivation is not there. I used to be motivated to, work on my projects, but I'm not anymore. I just really don't want to do anything. I don't feel like doing anything. All right. That's not a good sign. Something's not right. Muscle loss is another thing. If you're just all of a sudden losing muscle, that can be a really strong indicator that you have a hormonal imbalance going on. So you want to reach out. Sleep issues, just like women, again, very big indicator that something is not right. And then also mood changes. Are you more moody? Are you less tolerable of things where you used to be way more tolerable? So those are really good indicators that you have a hormonal imbalance going on. All right, so what do we do with all of this? Well, if you were to come see me after doing a full, in-depth study on your health history, your environment, just your full toxicity load, just everything about you, then we begin to dive in. And sometimes we use testing. I'll use lab work testing, whether it's hormone or mycotoxin or gut testing or just lab work, blood lab work. Sometimes we do muscle testing. So we do tests so that we can back up what we're seeing and really get a definitive direction of what is screaming out the loudest and what we need to address first and foremost, and then systematically address the other issues that might come after that. All right, so that's one of the things. Now, do I use things, supplements, to help you feel better? Yes, I do. Believe it or not, L-tryptophan has really good evidence showing that it can, in many patients, be as effective as an SSRI or an anti-anxiety or antidepressant. So I will bring in L-tryptophan. I will use GABA at times. I will use ashwagandha at times or magnesium at times, because sometimes nutritionally you are depleted in your body and your body is screaming out. So yes, I will use supplements to help you to feel better while we're going after the root of what got you to not feeling well. Then we use other things, lifestyle things like exercise, for one. And some of you are like, oh, I'm out, tap out. Others of you are like, I'm in. That's the easiest part. But trust me, it's very different for each and every person. There's also stress management techniques. Maybe just teaching you how to do some tapping or breathing really helps resolve some of that anxiety that you're walking through. I know I went through a time in my healing journey when I dealt with major anxiety, and for me, walking while I was listening to a brainless book helped bring down my anxiety attacks. All right, so I felt an attack coming on. I'd literally grab my headphones. I'd hit the book play on my phone, and off I would walk until I could feel myself calming down. And it wasn't a fast walk, it was a slow walk. But I would just walk, and listen to that book, and I could feel my anxiety attack just calm down. So maybe we talk about that. Is that right for you? We talk about proper nutrition, and we talk about sleep, because sleep is a big thing. Remember, I've said that a few times already. All right. So in closing, if you are on medication and you are feeling better, I'm very happy about that. But your body is not healed. So we've got to dive in deeper to find out what's going on, or it will express itself in another way. Could be mold, could be parasites, could be a hormonal imbalance. We want to focus on healing the whole body, not just resolving the symptom. All right, my friends, I just want you to remember there is hope for healing. Be very vigilant about keeping your body as healthy as you possibly can. Your mind healthy, your body healthy, and your spirit healthy. It's great to be with you. I'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.